It's just like when you're in the gym, you're lifting weights, you're experiencing the muscle tears and your muscles are sore,
Right.
and you're gonna be sore, and that's a good thing.
Right.
You know, the lifting coaches say it's good that you feel pain because that means you're getting stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
So pain's that the suffering that we have. Pain kind of leads us to, I don't want to keep being in this, so I'm going to keep pushing through, so I don't have to deal with this forever.
Right.
And I'm going to be stronger and better because of it.
Welcome back to the Journey Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler.
I'm Dylan.
I'm Abigail. Not really. I'm Adam.
Hi, Abigail.
I'm Adam.
Just kidding.
I'm a sub.
He's a relief hitter.
Yeah.
A relief pitcher. I don't know baseball at all, Adam.
You can do both.
Okay.
You can do both.
Excellent. Dylan, you a baseball guy?
It's probably my favorite sport, but I'm not really a sports guy. If there's going to be one team out of all sports that I will root for, it is the Cubs.
Nice.
So
You won't have to root a lot then. A lot of
That's-
losing.
Nice.
And speaking of losing,
Speaking of losing, today we're talking about how to win at losing. All of us at various points in our life will face disappointment or discouragement, things that maybe feel like they're taking us away from who we want to be or what we want to do, and yet there is a way, we believe, to live into the losses of life and turn them into wins.
Your life, your journey starts now.
As we were kind of kicking around before we started all the various ways that all of us have lost in our life, we kind of settled on talking about, for me, it was college. So going into college, I wanted to go to this Ivy League school because they had reached out to me, and I thought that meant that I was supposed to go there. And so I got interviewed to go to this school, and then that didn't work out. I didn't get in, and so I was kind of like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And yet through that process of figuring out that I wasn't going to the school that I had wanted to, I ended up going to a different school, not the school that I had originally wanted to go to. And then I went to this other school for a year. Wasn't doing well mentally, didn't fit in. You know, it's like externally I was doing fine. I was on a lot of leadership committees. You know, I had really good grades. I had won like some award for having the most community service hours out of anybody on the college's campus. Like externally things looked like they were going really well, and yet internally it was like I was so just not fulfilled. Like I was struggling so much that I felt like I needed to transfer. I needed to go somewhere else. Which ended up being a good thing for me, but at the time it felt like I was losing all over again. Like I'm not strong enough, or I'm not good enough to do this whole college thing. To the point that there came some very like real and raw times, especially during the second semester of my freshman year of college, where I would get up in the morning and I would walk to class and I would just like have a panic attack on my way to my first class. Yeah, that was a really dark time for me. And I remember like getting to the end of myself thinking like, man, you had so many high hopes, so many high expectations. Like people thought that I was going to do all these great things. And yet in the midst of that, as I kind of came to terms with needing to transfer or like go, somewhere else, go on a different path, I realized that the experience and the skills that I had in those dark places actually made me more resilient to face the things that I needed to be able to face in the future. So that when I did transfer schools and had some difficult experiences there, I was able to weather the storm because I had already done something harder. You can experience pain, you can experience things that are like a loss, but you don't have to let it like derail your entire life. Like you can acknowledge the difficulty of losing. You can acknowledge the pain that comes with things not playing out the way you want to, but you can also use the lessons learned, and you can use those to actually go on a new path, one that in the end might actually be better than the one you initially intended, which is how it worked out for me, because if I hadn't transferred, I wouldn't have been able to accept the job that was offered to me when I was in my junior year of college, which was to be a youth pastor, and now I'm still at that same church today. So
well, hey, I can feel you there for especially struggling through classes and stuff. I'm still well along my college journey, and like you said, the mental side of it, being able to get through the semester. Really, for me, the biggest struggle is it doesn't matter if you're in 10 clubs, one club. It's all about, how you're doing day to day, waking up to several panic attacks. I have that very badly through exam season. There's some weeks where, especially I go to Iowa State for engineering, and their exam schedule is jam packed. You'll get
right.
3 or 4 in 1 week for midterms, and my family members know me. They know I struggle during those weeks, so they take extra time to lift me up. But it's a tough scene, and it's hard to get through those weeks. When you feel like losing during those weeks, you feel like you didn't do well on one of those exams. It teaches you a lot because you got to move on to the next one, and then once you're out of it, man, like it helps out a lot. Right.
And it kind of comes back to the cognitive distortions, as I talked about last week. This idea that I just feel right now the thing that I'm feeling is what I'm always going to feel.
Right.
Which is just not true.
Right. You have to kind of have a perspective that goes farther than just the immediate. Like if you can remind yourself that today is not the last day, maybe you can remind yourself that like the thing that's in front of you is not not every loss or not every difficult thing in your life is the end of your life, then it's much easier, I think, to weather some of those storms. And so that's one of the reasons why I think, like, even in the Bible, in James chapter 1, he just says in the book of James, like right at the beginning, he says, "Consider it pure joy when you suffer trials of many kinds, because suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance produces hope." And the idea is like, every time you suffer something like a trial or like a loss, a difficult life circumstance, you're just like 1% or 2% more resilient, so that the next time you face something that's just as hard, or you experience a loss that's just as difficult, you are that much more prepared, and you're that much more able to kind of like withstand the difficulty of that because you've experienced loss before.
It's just like when you're in the gym, you're lifting weights, you're experiencing the muscle tears and your muscles are sore, and you're gonna be sore, and that's a good thing.
Right.
The lifting coaches say it's good that you feel pain because that means you're getting stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
So pain's that the suffering that we have. Pain kind of leads us to, I don't want to keep being in this, so I'm going to keep pushing through, so I don't have to deal with this forever.
Right.
And I'm going to be stronger and better because of it.
And there's so many people. I mean, you think of like famous people, like I think Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, or one of the, maybe both, or at least one of the two, didn't graduate college. You go back, like Tom Brady was a really low draft pick. I'm trying to think about Thomas Edison. They're like, you failed 1,000 times, and he's like, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. And so it's the perspective shift matters, and yet the reality is so many successful people, pretty much every successful person, if we're honest, part of the reason they're so successful is because they, and not even just worldly standard of success, but even just like Adam was touching on, just being okay mentally, like living a life that feels like it's fulfilled. Part of that has to do with learning how to win at losing, because honestly, the people who make it to the places that they want to be in life, all of them have lost to some degree or another, but they've figured out how to win at losing, as opposed to allowing their loss to like determine their identity or to dictate their entire life. Like none of us want to be the people who experience some difficult thing and then that just determines the trajectory of our entire life. And that's not to minimize the losses that people have experienced. Man, you can.
Well, think about Tyler Hungate.
Right.
He was denied at Yale.
Right. Yeah.
And yet look at him now.
I was denied at Yale. I had to transfer away from my school. I was depressed. I was having thoughts of suicide in between my freshman and sophomore year of college. And yet, if you had asked me at the time, I would have said, I'm worried that I'll feel this way forever. I'm worried that it will always be this way. And yet, it wasn't always that way. And now, I'm in a much different place. But even even then, like that, being able to turn that loss into something that helped me after our daughter was born this past January, man, my wife and I were struggling, right? Like postpartum depression is no joke. And then trying to figure out how to support a wife who's struggling with that and a newborn child is tough. And yet, even at the lowest points of that, we were able to go, we've actually both felt like this before, and yet we came out the other side. And so we know that despite the way we feel right now, we will come out the other side. And I think that's like crucial to winning at losing, is having that perspective of like, I know that I'm going to come out the other side regardless of the season that I'm in.
And winning at losing, to both your guys' points, both your experiences, like you go to the gym, if you take a step back and you change your frame of reference, you look 6 months back to where you were when you were struggling with the 45-pound weights. And then you look at that now when you're benching 55, 60s, whatever.
Right.
That 45 seems so much easier in comparison because you were able to struggle through it and you got stronger and more resilient through it.
Absolutely.
And I would like to think, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but going through your college experience prepared the resiliency of being able to deal with the family matters that have occurred.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's gold right there.
Yep.
Yeah. The only person who does not lose is the one who does nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it just with life, it's like inevitable that you're going to fail. You're going to mess up. Things are not going to go your way. You're not going to be happy about it. It's going to suck.
Yep.
It will. But you're going to be better because of it.
Right. Right. And honestly, one of the things that gives me so much encouragement, just as like, I like the Bible quite a bit. I work as a pastor, so I read it. And if you look at the Bible, like one of the jokes that we like to make at our church is that outside of Jesus, no one in the Bible would be able to get a job at our church, because even like the really famous Bible characters, right? Like you think about Abraham. Like Abraham was not a very good husband. He threw his wife under the bus on multiple occasions. You think about King David, right? Like King David was an adulterer, and he was effectively a murderer, and he also was called the man after God's own heart, and God used him. And God uses broken people in so many different examples in the Bible, even the Apostle Paul, like so many different people that have these like really messed up, broken stories, and then God just uses them. And it's like the same thing is true of you and me. Like God's in the business of redeeming losers. And so yeah, I'm happy to be a loser actually, because those are exactly the kind of people that God wants. But
I think Paul is such a good example of what it means to win at losing, because there's a verse, Philippians chapter 4, 12 through 13. He says, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.
That's a great verse, especially taking a look back. He was talking not only about the trials, but of the worldly successes that may come too. And that just is very important. Losing is not a physical response. Like it is, there's ways to lose without physically losing.
right, without looking like you've lost.
You could have the best car in the driveway. You could have the fanciest house on the block, and you could still be losing, because the physical world is not the end all be all.
Right, that's true.
So what I like to think is you have three very important parts of who you are. There's the physical,
Yep.
There's the worldly part, there's the mental part, which is how you're doing up here, and then there's the spiritual part, your relationship with the Lord. And if you are winning at one but losing at two, that's just as bad as if you're losing in the physical world.
Right.
And so the losing is not something that you can gauge, and that's why we don't want to judge others, because we don't know.
Right.
We can only see a certain aspect of it. So
A great example of that you just like brought to my mind is Adam Sandler. You guys know Adam Sandler, the actor?
Oh, yeah.
If you had never seen a movie with Adam Sandler in it and you saw him on the street,
Sorry, what? Keep going.
If you had never seen a movie with him in it and you just saw him walking down the street, you would probably, and he does this purposely because he likes to dress this way. You might think that he's a loser, right? He dresses like I dress when I'm not on the Journey podcast, right? Like he wears basketball shorts that are too long and he wears t-shirts that have holes in them and stains on them.
Dude, him and Jack Black. Jack Black looks homeless, man.
Right, exactly. And it's like those are two of the most successful guys in the movie industry. And yet it's like it has nothing to do with outward appearances. You know, has everything to do with the fact that they are, I mean, they have been successful in a physical sense, but also more than that, they're just content with who they are.
There's people that are working struggling jobs that do appear to be in a much better mood than some of the most successful business people in the world.
Right.
You know, there's really winning and losing is such a mindset that there's no gauge to it. It really comes down to your relationship with yourself, your relationship with the Lord, and others around you.
Defining what like success is, defining what winning is super important. Mm-hmm. Because we can define success in a very unrealistic way, and we will never become successful because we've set ourselves too high of a limit, and we're never going to get there. Right. But if we set it at a reasonable management, not to say like give up on your dreams, but it's like, is success having $1 million when I'm 40? Maybe to some that might be the goal.
Right.
But I think for me, success is I have wonderful people in my life. I have, I don't have all the money in the world, and I struggle with money, and like that's okay because where I am mentally, I'm okay, and for spiritually, I'm more than okay. So the physical, it's like, well, I don't have money, and that's okay. Right. I'm successful still.
And I think that's an important point here. Is Dylan's talking about the idea of creating goals for yourself. And there's different goals to success that you can have. But what's different between the goals that you mentioned here, the difference between having $1 million and having a family that you feel like you can be yourself around, one of those is based in emotions, and one of those is based in physical assets. And a lot of people make these physical asset related goals to try and fulfill that emotional need.
Oh my gosh,
so
dude.
What I would caution is if you're making these goals of I want this job, I want this vehicle, I want this house.
Right. And then I'll be fulfilled.
What are you actually trying to fulfill?
Yeah.
I feel like taking a quick step back and asking why do I want this would be very important to people that are trying to map out what they want success to be in their life.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, it's do you define success as man, or the world defines success, or do you define success in terms of in like fulfillment and relationship to God and relationship to others? And ultimately, if you are only content to chase physical things to fill those parts of you that they're not designed to fill, even if you get all of them, you're still going to feel like you lost. You're still going to be left wanting. And so, being able to change your perspective to be finding the positive even when you are struggling in any area of life, being able to say, like the Thomas Edison thing, like found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb, or, like the Dylan thing, like, yeah, I don't have a lot of money, but I have what I actually need. Or even, for myself personally, like, yeah, I didn't get into this big Ivy League school and I had to transfer after my freshman year of college, but all I did was figure out how to be resilient through difficult things, and now I'm much better off for it. So finding the positive, being able to look at the things that the world would count as a loss and actually turn it to a win internally, man, you can't lose in that instance. Like if you can get yourself to view whatever life throws at you as simply an opportunity to improve, to grow, and to like further your own journey, then man, it doesn't matter what happens. It's not a loss.
Mm-hmm. So a little about me just generally, and I'll tie that into exactly what you're saying here, Tyler, is I am a quote-unquote professional blitzball player. And if you don't know what blitzball is, take a second, look it up. It's kind of crazy.
We'll wait.
Yeah. Come on back. Are you back yet? All right.
Yeah.
All right. But to go along that journey, I originally had to give up playing baseball. I gave up playing baseball at high school age. And to somebody whose perspective wasn't quite right, my own, being that I thought I had failed.
Yeah.
Going from baseball to what some see as the child's version.
Wiffle ball.
Or, you know,
Or,
like
T-ball, right?
there's no professional, or at the time, there was no professional avenue established for blitzball, and
Yeah.
I was giving up on a sport that was closely related that had a professional avenue
Yeah,
where
right.
my friends and family all wanted me to go play college baseball, to go see where I could go for that. By quitting that, there was freedom, but there was also a pain of and a fear of regret because my perspective was off.
Right.
But changing my perspective, zooming out a little bit, seeing where blitzball has now taken me for 5 years down the line,
Right.
it's crazy. And I can confidently say that baseball could never have taken me to the places and given me the opportunities that I've had. I've been able to interact with more Major League Baseball players playing blitzball than I think I ever would have
Right.
playing actual baseball.
Right. Playing college
Wow,
baseball.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a
So
good point. Yeah.
just changing that perspective, trusting the process, allowing God's plan and purpose to go through, and really not
That's good.
not burdening down on what
Right.
you see as failure quite yet. That's pretty important.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's perspective is really like maybe the biggest key to this entire episode is winning at losing requires changing your perspective from I'm going to beat myself up because things didn't go the way I thought they would to how can the way that things went be used to actually help me grow and make me better
Yeah.
and further me along. Or
So good.
to your point, Adam, how might this be used to take me down an avenue that I didn't even have the language for before, let alone the perspective to see that could be a potential, you know?
Yeah, professional blitzball was not a thing when I quit baseball.
Yeah, right. And here
Wow.
you are.
Wow,
I think
yeah.
God's plan and purpose was for someone like me who ended up getting really good at blitzball
Right.
to help pave that avenue.
I have learned through my experience, especially in college, that the places that we are in are oftentimes, we have a reason for why we think we're in these places or different opportunities, and usually God has different reasoning for it.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to college so that I could become a pastor. I actually dropped out of seminary, didn't do that route, but I know that he had a purpose for where I was in college. Like that's not a wasted opportunity.
Right.
It's just a different opportunity than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And I'm better because of it.
Right.
And I realized
Absolutely.
that's not what I was there for. And yeah, it felt like losing. I felt like I was giving up this whole path that I had paved in front of me, and I was giving that up. And I was like, what am I going to do? I have no idea. I just know it's not this.
And so you know, if you are the person who is feeling like some circumstance or situation in your life right now is a loss, that you are too far gone, or that there's no way that you can get out of this hole, maybe that you even dug for yourself, just take a moment and, you know, maybe grab one of the journey coaching books and sit down with a friend, have somebody who can speak into your life a different perspective, because oftentimes we need somebody else to help us have our eyes opened and be able to shift the way we look at things, to realize, oh, I don't have to beat myself up. I don't have to think that I've lost for good, but that this can actually be used to help me grow and help me further along my journey.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next time and make sure you like and subscribe. Visit us at journeycoaching.org and check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Start your own journey at journeycoaching.org.
Your life, your journey starts now. Ba-da-ba-da-ba.